Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Divorce Girl Smiling Empower Lunch Hour. Today is Thursday. And today I love this webinar. I'm so excited to introduce the speakers. But before I do that, I just want to let you know what we're talking about. It's the do's and don'ts of divorce, and why it's important to have a divorce team when you're getting divorced. So I just want to start off by saying that when I got divorced 15 years ago, there was nothing like this in the industry. You went to a divorce attorney, you assumed you were going to litigate your divorce and fight it out, and it felt like a big battle. And I can't even count the number of mistakes I made as a newly separated person. I didn't listen to my attorney. I just let him send the documents to my soon-to-be ex. My ex got upset. We weren't communicating. We had young kids. The kids were a mess. We didn't really get the help we should have for them. We didn't get the therapy that we needed. Forget about finances. That was like ridiculous amounts of mistakes. We didn't even know what mediation was. We didn't know what we were doing with our house. I mean, I could go on and on. There was so much I didn't know, and so much has changed since then. And that's why I think this webinar is really, really important. So today in the DGS Empower Lunch Hour, the webinar, we have 7 speakers, all who are wonderful and who work together, if you want, to help you in your divorce. So I'm going to just introduce all of them, and then they're going to each speak for a little bit, and then they are going to introduce themselves and give a little more information when they're speaking. So with that said, the speakers today are divorce attorney Patricia Van Haren, divorce attorney Elizabeth Jablecki Johnson, divorce financial expert and wealth asset manager Glenn Crawford, financial advisor Greg Schmidt, therapist and life coach Cheryl Woodhouse, real estate agent Susan Piazza, and certified mortgage advisor Tommy Evans. So I am so proud to be partnering with all of these wonderful people. And from there, I will introduce Glenn first. I think you're the first speaker, Glenn. So take it away.
Okay, Jackie, thank you very much. And good morning to everyone who's attending. We are recording this, so you will be able to see it on video on demand. One thing, both Greg and I, Greg Schmidt, we're both CDFAs, Certified Divorce Financial Analysts, or Divorce Financial Experts. I love the name Divorce Girls Smiling, and I want you to hold on to that. I played sports my whole life, college sports, coached people in business. And my coach mind tells me that you absolutely will get through this and you will be smiling. This is a temporary circumstance. I guarantee you this too shall pass. I want to thank my colleagues for being here as well and giving up their time to provide this educational content. Many of us have walked down your road, not in your shoes, but we've walked down your road. And we understand that how traumatic going through a divorce can be. No one gets married thinking they're going to get divorced. We believe strongly that the divorce market that's helping people navigate this course is largely broken. It's combative, it's confusing, and it's costly. And we are all members of a group called Vesta Divorce here in the Vesta Divorce Irvine Hub here in California. All of us have been highly vetted, went through a stringent application process, and we are dedicated divorce professionals. We each have our own practices, but we've created a new style. I call it Vesta style. We want to educate, connect, and empower people towards getting their mojo back, and you will get your mojo back. Our Vesta style is one of collaboration. It means that we work together. You can work with any one of us or any combination of us, or if you have professionals outside our ranks, we'll work with them as well. All the hubs, and including this one, have core divorce skill sets including a lawyer, a mediator, certified divorce financial analyst, a licensed marriage family therapist and or coach, a realtor, and a mortgage lender. And I needed all those things when I went through my divorce, and I had them, but they were all siloed. As a team guy, I believe that you're much more powerful with a team. I'll give you a personal example. I just had a knee replacement. When I went in to get the surgery, it wasn't just the orthopedic surgeon in there. One of the mistakes that I made was going through my divorce with just my attorney. I went in that room and there was an anesthesiologist and 3 or 4 or 5 people on monitors. There was a team. And we believe strongly that with our confidence in one another, our experience with one another, that we work very well. Additionally, from the skill sets that I mentioned, we have forensic accountants, business valuation people, CPAs, trust attorneys, career consultants, parenting consultants, just about anything you would need when you went through divorce. And I wish to goodness gracious that Vesta Divorce would have been here when I went through my divorce. Today, we're having a workshop on divorce do's and don'ts, and you'll hear from these dedicated professionals, and you're going to hear a lot of information. I'll promise you that. And given that when you go through divorce, you're emotionally, mentally, and physically taxed, you're probably not at your best. So if you even remember 10% of it, that's great. We invite you to reach out to any of us. I'm sure you'll get all of our contact information and see if you would like a individual consultation. So with that, I'll let Patricia kick it off for us.
Thank you, Glenn. I'm Patricia Van Haren. I am the collaborative divorce attorney and mediator in our Irvine Hub. What we are is a team of divorce professionals. We work together and we want to make sure that you have all the tools you need for a successful divorce. So as Glenn said, today we're working on the do's and don'ts. So how we can save you from costly mistakes. Got a couple gentle reminders. We're here today to give you information about divorce, but this workshop does not create an attorney-client relationship. The attorneys here are licensed to practice only in California. So all legal information is provided based on California law. If you're in another state, check with an attorney in your state to make sure the legal information is valid. And if you have questions, go ahead and send them via the chat. We will answer them at the end. And on our lineup, we will be talking about how to save money in a divorce. Everyone wants to save money, the benefits of a divorce team, how you can protect yourself from mistakes in a divorce, common divorce myths, ways to educate yourself in a divorce process. I find education is very important, and how to keep emotions from blocking you in the divorce process. So first on our do's and don'ts today, don't try a do-it-yourself divorce. There are many options to keep your divorce uncontested and out of court, but you want to make sure you don't try a do-it-yourself divorce without the proper guidance. Do understand all the legal processes that are available to you and which could be best for your situation. There's mediation, where both spouses work with a neutral party, and that party guides them through the divorce process and helps them to come to an agreement, which includes a full marital settlement agreement. They'll also help you file all the papers with the court. Collaborative divorce is where 2 attorneys work together with a team. We make a commitment to stay out of court and sign a document saying we will not take your case to court. Litigation is what many people think of in the divorce process, and that's where each party has their own attorney. The attorneys go and present the case in front of the court, and a judge will make your decisions. Elizabeth will talk a little bit more about the litigation process when we get to her. Negotiated representation. That's where you and your spouse are represented and your attorneys are working to try to keep your case out of court and negotiating directly with each other. It's different from collaboration. where the attorneys have a commitment to stay out of court. With negotiated representation, if the settlement communications fail, your attorney can still file your case in court and request that the judge make orders. And then there's attorney-guided self-representation or limited scope representation, where you would represent yourself, but you'd have the proper guidance. What I see go wrong in many cases is parties try to do it alone, and they come up with these ambiguous settlement agreements, which end up going to court later. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth Johnson, our family law attorney. And maybe she could talk a little bit before she gets started after her introduction about what can happen if your divorce judgment is not done correctly.
Right. So I'm Elizabeth Johnson. I'm a family law attorney. I've been practicing. I'm in my 21st year now. And I am interested in getting you to your new normal. I can't undo what the decisions that have been made in the past, but I can try to get you forward so that you are focused forward looking. So not all attorneys are the same. And you don't want to hire the wrong person to guide you through your divorce. You want to hire the right firm, the right attorney that is going to match your values and also be effective for you with your attorney fees that you're paying. So, if you hire a bigger firm that, does all of the things, they send notices and they send discovery no matter what, then you are going to generate a lot of fees to start, whether or not you actually need those things. So it's important to have a conversation with your attorney to make sure that you're getting the bang for your buck. Not all attorneys are the same, and so choose the right one for your type of case. There are attorneys in the area that are very aggressive and well-renowned litigators, and they are not settlement-minded. Now, while we take cases to court from start to finish, and we are not afraid to do so, we try to settle all of the issues that we can settle still, because the court doesn't want us to bring retirement accounts and your household furniture and furnishings, and your cars. The court doesn't want us to litigate those on the date of trial because they are easily addressed prior to then. The court only wants us to bring the issues that cannot be agreed upon to trial. Also, you would not want an orthopedic doctor operating on your heart. You want that cardiologist. So don't pick the wrong attorney for your family law case. With respect to the judgment, like Patricia was talking about, when if you're trying to, I'm going to say, if you're trying to do it on the cheap and you hire, someone that's not an attorney to prepare your judgment, there are provisions that need to be in every judgment, one. And so it may get rejected multiple times from the court clerk while it's trying to be entered. But then later on, you may spend more money with an attorney trying to clean up or enforce a part of the judgment that you thought existed that isn't really there because you didn't pay less on the front end. So, it may end up costing you more in the end.
So when should you try mediation or collaborative divorce? I believe wherever possible. If you can come to just one solitary agreement with your spouse, which is to keep your case out of court, you can try mediation or collaborative divorce. So there's many benefits to alternative dispute resolution. It's a private process, which means we only file the necessary documents with the court to have your case move through the process. Also, you are in control of the outcome rather than having a judge decide the outcome of your case. You and your spouse get to decide what is the parenting plan that works for the two of you. What is the financial picture that works for the two of you? There's a lot more flexibility and options. Also, through that process, you're not continuing to fuel the fire. But there's times that mediation or collaborative process may not be appropriate.
Right. And you may need litigation when there's a history of domestic violence. Maybe one of the sides has had to go in to request a temporary restraining order or a permanent restraining order. And so, one, there's just not a base from which something can be negotiated, or two, you can't even be in the same space, really. Although you can always go to court if there's a restraining order, because there's a bailiff, a sheriff's deputy there to protect everybody. If I already have an attorney, is it too late to try mediation? It is never too late to try mediation. Not only do litigated cases try to, attorneys try to settle them, we call it, settling it on the courthouse steps. Prior to a hearing, we're always required to meet and confer. It's the first question that the court asks: have we been able to settle it? But also, if you can either mediate with attorneys, with your attorneys in a case, or you can tell your attorneys, hey, we want to take a break, we want to put this on hold, and we want to go try mediation by ourselves. Whatever time you need, whatever resources you need, the court always wants you to reach an agreement, and the court will almost always give you the time to do that.
And very important, don't use your attorney or your mediator for emotional issues. Mediation is not marriage counseling. When I'm working with a couple in mediation, our goal is to come to a final judgment. It's not the time to talk about the past, the whys of why you're getting divorced. It's not the time to continue your arguments. Mediation really should be focused on legal proposals. What is it going to take to solve your case? I often recommend that my clients, if they're having a hard time with communication and interacting, I recommend that they have a session with their therapist prior to coming to a mediation session. That way they can flush out all the emotional issues and focus on just the legal issues in our mediation sessions.
Right. So your attorney is not even qualified to be your therapist. While we can be empathetic and we can listen, with an ear toward what may be legally relevant in your case, or again, just be an ear for you, it's not cost effective. And we don't have the knowledge or the training to give you skills that can help you in your day-to-day life in dealing with these things that are causing you distress.
Attorneys and mediators are going to cost anywhere from $400 to $600, whereas your therapist may take insurance, and you could have a co-payment that's anywhere from $15 to $50 for that hour. So when you look at that, you definitely want to put your money there. So consider that your money spent either with your mediator, your litigation attorney, or your collaborative attorney is much better spent focusing on the legal issues. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to our amazing therapist, Cheryl Woodhouse, and she is going to talk about how she works with our clients to help them through the divorce process.
Thanks, Patricia. My name's Cheryl Woodhouse. I'm a licensed marriage, family therapist, and divorce coach. I've been doing it for about 21 years, and I'm happy to work with Vesta. We're a great group of professionals. Now, why do you want to work with a therapist? So many people say, Cheryl, I wish that I had met you years ago, but it's too late now. It's not too late. In fact, I'm here to tell you, you want to keep the smile on your face so you don't lose lots of money in the process by getting so emotional in front of your attorney or other divorce professional, and you don't want to lose your mind in the process. We want to look at not losing your emotions so far that it's costing you in every way and you're not clear and focused on what you want to accomplish. It costs a lot of money when you start to argue with your soon-to-be ex when you're not focused on true facts. You want to have a strategy. And so I really recommend that you journal everything down to manage your emotions, to keep laser focused on what you want to get accomplished and how to go about communicating with your ex moving forward. And I really recommend that you stick with facts. I've learned over the years that especially if you're in a high conflict divorce, if you start throwing, you've always done that and you've never done that. You just raise the bar in the conflict in your divorce, and it's going to cost you a lot of money down the road. So you definitely want to stick with facts and facts alone. Document, so you can keep that laser focus. It's also important, it's normal for you to have tons of emotions like a roller coaster. Going through a divorce or even thinking about a divorce is the second most stressful event someone can go through in their life. So please be kind to yourself and give yourself some self-care during this time. Self-care could be meditating for some, doing yoga for others. It might just be pulling the covers over your head and saying, today I'm not getting out of bed, but tomorrow I will. It's being gentle with yourself. Make sure that you are working with a therapist or a life coach to reduce your anxiety and to reduce your stress during this time. Because if you don't, what happens is anger starts to build and your resentment starts to build and your parenting gets affected, and you don't want that to occur. You want to make sure that you keep level-headed during this time. I don't recommend that you go out with your friends to the bar and drink, because so many people start comparing their divorce to their friend's divorce. And that's not a good idea, because every divorce is different. But you want to make sure that you just focus on communicating with your divorce professionals and keeping to the facts when you communicate with your significant other. And don't blame, don't shame anybody. Just keep neutral and keep focused. And I also strongly recommend that you do bring your children into the divorce process, but in an age-appropriate manner. Never what we call triangulate or put your kids in between you and your soon-to-be ex-spouse. Only discuss, and this is something that I do as a therapist with my families, what they necessarily need to know. And that would be, mom and dad are getting a divorce, or as a couple, you're getting a divorce, but in no way is it the children's fault. Nothing they did cause the divorce. They'll always be loved. They're not going to be divorced by either parent, hopefully. And just really bring them into the process. Kids very much appreciate putting their 2 cents in, and also being able to have a sounding board with parents about their fears about the divorce. Never speak negatively about your soon-to-be ex. It's only going to backfire. And really sadly, it damages the kids more than yourself or your significant other. So I would recommend that you set ground rules and how you speak to one another when you co-parent. I strongly recommend that you get a separate therapist to do your co-parenting counseling, compared to if you do reunification counseling, if there's some alienation going on, versus having your child have their own therapist, completely separate, no parent goes in the room. And I would say reduce arguments completely. I know the attorneys can talk on this, but through Family Wizard or Talking Parents.
Hi, I'm Glenn Crawford. Spoke to you here at the beginning again. I am a CDFA, a Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, a mediator, a wealth asset manager. That means to say that myself and my partner on the call here, Greg Schmidt, are divorce financial experts. As I mentioned, we're going to give you a lot of content here today, and hopefully you can remember, just a bit of it and put it into practice. But I'll start off with this, that I mentioned that a team is more powerful than an individual. And there are 4 pillars to divorce. There's the legal piece, the financial piece, the emotional piece, and also the real estate piece for many people. And I believe that none of them can be ignored. They all need to be attended to. And Cheryl gave some great advice about self-care. And the best thing that you can do, in my opinion, is forgive yourself for whatever part you may have played in the circumstance that you find yourself in. and move forward. And the quicker you take stock of the lot that you're in right now and become informed, the better off you'll be, the better you'll have an opportunity to get your mojo back. Many people think that marital asset division is simple, and it's really not. There's a lot of components. Divorce is a business, and the business of divorce does not care about emotion. You are essentially dissolving the marital enterprise, of which you're a 50% partner. And that means that everything that you acquired during the course of your marriage, you're entitled to 50% of. I have what I call my 5 isms. That's the first one. There are very few universal truths, but there's a lot of general truths. So my 5 isms of divorce are: number 1, you are a 50% partner in the marital enterprise. You are entitled to 50% of what you acquired during the course of your marriage, and you're responsible for 50% of what you incurred or your debt during the course of your marriage. And that's doesn't make any difference whether you owned the business, you were a big-time lawyer, or you were the CEO of the household. You have a marital business. And as such, if you were dissolving a partnership in business, you would want to know how everything is properly valued. What are the assets and what are the debts? How much accounts receivable do you have? How much accounts payable? How much is in inventory? What is our machinery worth? Our intellectual property, what's that worth? The buildings that we own, what is that worth? And I say that you should come from a place of being informed. It's okay to relinquish an asset as long as you know the value of it and why you're relinquishing it. And so that is where CDFA comes in. Lawyers are not trained in matters of finance. They can advise you how to divide your assets from a legal standpoint, but they don't necessarily know how to value assets properly. They don't take into consideration the risk involved should you divide those assets, the ability to generate income or the ability for them to be liquid. In short, lawyers are somewhat being paid to do something they're not trained to do. They also don't communicate in a way that's conducive to you understanding what you're negotiating, because they write letters and interrogatories and requests for respondents and requests for orders, and they have their own typeface and their own structure for it. And I can tell you it can be pretty difficult to extrapolate that data. So what a CDFA does is they provide clarity, comfort, and confidence to help you understand marital asset division. You'll be able to more clearly provide directives to your attorney. You understand what and why and how you're dividing those assets in a given way, because we'll run what we call asset division scenarios. And moreover, we'll give you a glimpse into what your new financial normal looks like. It's important to understand what life looks like on the day of settlement, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. So again, I'm going to hand it over here to my associate, Greg Schmidt. He's going to talk a little bit more about how you plan for the financial impact of your divorce.
Thank you, Glenn. And thank you all for being here. As Glenn mentioned, we are certified divorce financial analysts. And so, we work in this space commonly. We both are, first financial advisors and financial planners. And so we work with clients in order to really help them optimize their financial lives in order to achieve goals. And so, a lot of times that goal is retirement for people, but specifically in this space, you encounter some unique challenges. One of the inherent parts about divorce is you're taking the resources that were supporting a single household, and now you're using those same resources in order to support 2 households. And so that presents some challenges, as you can imagine. On top of that, very often you have one spouse who's managing the finances and you have the other spouse who maybe isn't so involved. And so there's a relatively steep learning curve for usually at least one of the spouses in the situation. And so, as Glenn mentioned, a really easy way, a concise way for us to help you understand whether or not you're ready to sign your marital settlement agreement is understanding what your financial picture looks like today, understanding what your financial picture is going to look like once you sign, and then understanding what the implications are 10 to 15 years down the road. And so the do would be understand the answers to those questions. The don't would be don't sign your agreement until you do. And so I'm going to go into a little bit about what that means, just because those are very general statements. Okay. And so your financial picture not only involves, what you own, right? So not how much, it's not just how much cash you have in the bank. It's not just how many, investments you have in your retirement plan. It's not just whether or not you own the home. It's the cash flow situation. It's your liabilities. And then it's all of the characteristics of those things, right? So is your cash flow consistent, or is it going to vary? Are all of your assets tied up in the equity in your home, or are they liquid? All of these considerations play a role in, what your new financial position is going to be. And you can't negotiate over that until you understand what it is today. Okay. And it's not sufficient to simply understand what it's going to be day one. You need to understand what the implications are going to be for 10, 15 years down the road, because your decisions will have consequences that affect those things. And so go ahead to the next slide. We'll talk about some of the more specific things here. So you likely have done some estate planning and you've put protection in place for your life already. Now, once you get divorced, you're going to have to redo that in a lot of ways. One really simple way is you're going to have to go through and check all of your beneficiaries, because most of your beneficiaries are probably going to be your soon-to-be ex-spouse. And so we have seen in the past people not update their beneficiaries, and that can be a really, really upsetting thing if something happens. And so another thing that we see really commonly is that people don't recognize the urgency of producing qualified domestic relations orders. And so the jargon term, the buzzword, is a quadro. And you can see it there on our slide, QDRO. And so please don't fail to complete that document. It's a legal document. This is not the type of document that you want to do yourself. And it's necessary for dividing employer-sponsored retirement plans. Okay, and it can cost a decent amount of money. It can cost more than $1,000 to do a quadro. And if you are not paying attention to your asset division, you may need multiple of these in order to fulfill your MSA. And so one of the things that Glenn and I work with our clients on is minimizing the number of quadros that you need. These documents may take months to process, and each plan administrator has different things that they want in that document in order for them to check their compliance box off. And so it's important that you get these things pre-approved. It's important that you work with a professional in order to get them done. Now, one of the reasons why I'm expressing all of the things that I am is because marital asset division, this agreement is generally final, okay? And you don't get to go back and redo it. The only way that you can do that is if you can prove fraud, which is extremely costly, both financially and emotionally, and it's really difficult to do. And it's really rare on top of that. So even if you feel like, there definitely was fraud, it can still be, it might be spending $10 to solve a $9 problem, is what I'm trying to express. And so it's really important that you understand all of the nuances of this process. And it's a business transaction, right? So we're in a community property state here in California, and, you know, it's a no fault state. The emotional piece of it doesn't play into what you're entitled to. And so when you're making decisions, you need really to work with someone like Cheryl in order to really get your emotions in check so that you can make sound business-like decisions as you go through this process, so that, you know, you get it right. Because the decisions that you make, as I mentioned, are going to have very lasting effects. They're going to set you off on a trajectory to really achieve all the goals that you want now that you're moving on. And so with that, I'm going to bring Tommy on to talk about the mortgage side of things. We'll start getting into our real estate.
Hello, everyone. I'm a certified mortgage advisor who specializes in divorce. And, you know, if you're going to be keeping the home through the divorce process, it's really important that you understand the steps and the timelines that are involved with purchasing that from your spouse. And so, you know, if you're on the mortgage currently and your spouse is also on the mortgage presently, you're likely going to be required to pull that other off the mortgage. And so, or maybe you own the home free and clear and you're going to need to do a cash out refinance. And so what that picture is going to look like is important to understand upfront. And so one of the most important things that you can do is talk with a mortgage advisor so that you really do understand what your options are up front. And so it's also really important to understand how child support or alimony is going to factor into whether or not you're going to qualify for that mortgage. And so, you know, if you filed for that divorce, now all of a sudden the courts don't know if you're going to be paying or receiving, how much that's going to be. And so it almost freezes your ability to do anything with regards to refinancing until the divorce is finalized. And even after it's been finalized, as an underwriter, we still need to see that you're consistently receiving that support. And what I mean by that is just because it's been awarded from the court doesn't necessarily mean that it's being paid. Unfortunately, that has been the case too many times. And so from an underwriting standpoint, they're going to want to see that you've been receiving that support for a minimum of 3 months. A lot of them want to see, 6 months. And so this is where, depending on what your situation is, maybe you look at taking a lump sum distribution, setting up a trust, and now day one, we can use trust income for you to qualify for that loan. And so this is something that our CDFAs specialize in, helping you to, navigate those unknowns to see, which direction is going to be better for you. And so it's really important that you understand upfront what you're going to be, trying to have as an end goal. And so if you know that you're not going to have, enough of a monthly child support or alimony support to qualify for a mortgage, maybe it's better to take that lump sum. And so we really want to make sure that we go through all of your options and that you fully understand, the implications of what the post-divorce is going to look like with regards to your home. And so with that, you also want to make sure you understand your credit and how that impacts your ability to qualify. In general, you need a minimum of 620 credit score for a conventional loan. And technically there is no credit score for VA or FHA, but most lenders want to see a minimum of 580 credit score. And so maybe there's some things that we need to do to boost your scores while you're going through the divorce process. So, having your credit pulled, ahead of time and really understanding what we can be working on to get you in that position to be able to refinance or to be able to purchase is a great thing to do. And, you know, what you don't want to do is negotiate for keeping the house if you just, quite frankly, aren't going to qualify for the loan. And so unfortunately, a lot of people spend a lot of time battling over the home and going back and forth, only to find out that they don't qualify. And that can be one of the biggest mistakes you can make, because, you know, if you look at your tax implications post-divorce, you know, you look at capital gains, you as a married couple, each person gets $250,000. If all of a sudden you sell that property and it's got more than $500,000 in equity, now all of a sudden you could be paying taxes on something that, had you sold it while you're still divorced or before you got divorced, your tax, liabilities were cut in half. And so really important to understand all these factors. And so if you do have questions, that's what I'm here to help guide you through.
Thank you very much, Tommy. I'm Susan Piazza, real estate agent. I specialize in couples going through divorce families. Really important to recognize that there's more to buying out the spouse than just getting that new loan. If you look at the condition of the property, it's really important to see if there's any deferred maintenance, keeping in mind that a roof can be $20,000, $30,000. If maybe there needs to be some repiping done, possible foundation issues, things like that. In addition to that, you want to think that if you're going to be buying the other spouse out of the property, think long-term. Is this home work for you in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Because maybe that home, both the size, maybe the location, it might not be the optimal thing for you long-term. Next slide. Very important to get a comparative market analysis. Talk to your realtor as soon as possible. A comparative market analysis will give you the value of the home now, and a really good real estate agent can also let you know what the trends are and where the economy is taking home values. So an appraisal, which appraisals are really expensive, they're anywhere between $600, and I've seen them go for a custom home as high as $2,000. And an appraiser is going to give you the value of the home maybe 3 to 6 months ago, because typically that appraiser is looking for values of homes that have closed escrow in the last 6 months. Sometimes they'll even go back a year. So expensive and not necessarily the data that you need. I would recommend spending that $600 or so though, and sometimes as little as $300 for a home inspection. Those are going to run $300 to $600. And that way, everything will be uncovered. Maybe there's some leaks that you're not aware of. There might even be some moisture in a wall, and my goodness, mold could be a, $150,000 expense at times, and insurance doesn't always cover everything. So really important to possibly get an inspection on the home, and definitely talk to your real estate agent and get a comparative market analysis.
So our final do and important tip is have a team to help you. Covering the legal, the emotional, financial. Most people understand that there's a legal aspect to divorce, but as we heard earlier, not attorneys are created equal. Make sure your attorney understands the impact of all the aspects of divorce. Emotional. Working with a divorce coach, a therapist. Divorce is a highly emotional process, and sometimes those emotions can block sound decisions. So make sure you do have a therapist or a coach on your team to help you make sound decisions. And financial, the division of property is treated exactly the same as dissolving a business, as we heard from our financial professionals. So make sure you have the right financial team in place to help you achieve the best settlement for your situation. And where you can find us, we're the Irvine Hub. You can find us on Vesta Divorce, Divorce Town USA. We also have YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our gracious host, Jackie, to wrap us up.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much. I loved everybody's presentations. We do have a little time, and I wanted to see if it was okay if I ask a couple questions. So I have two questions I thought of, and the first one is, can somebody give me an example? I think it will be helpful for people listening, of how a team can benefit someone, like a specific example of how you guys communicate with each other on a certain issue. And then my other question is, if there's somebody who isn't in the hub, can you recommend other professionals to these, like if somebody comes to you and then they need another profession, do you guys all have big networks in the Irvine area that you can refer to? So those are my two questions.
I can start with some of that. So having a team, for example, I'll give a real common example. If I'm working as a mediator, having a CDFA working with me to help prepare the financial disclosures. California, one of the most, I would say, expensive parts of our divorce process is putting together those financial disclosures. So if they're working with the CDFA to get those together, that's going to benefit. Glenn and I have the same software we use. We're able to share files back and forth with permission of the clients. Another way it's going to save them money is if they're seeing Cheryl before sessions with me, they're more likely to be focused on the legal issues involved rather than using our sessions to argue over things. Tommy's helped me in the past. We had a case where the wife wanted to purchase husband out of the house, and we were actually able, because it was a mediation, to get that accomplished before we filed for divorce. Susan helps in determining what the values are on property. I sent her a recent client. There was a new build. There's been no sales yet in this area. And I'm like, oh, talk to Susan. She can help you work on that. And I've worked with Greg on several pensions and retirements and quadros, and it's a streamlined process. I can get the documents over right after we're done. I'm going to have my other team members pop in, but that's how I've worked with everybody on here as a team, and it saved money dramatically than if I were spending my time doing all of it or reaching out. And we do have other referrals and other professionals in all our networks. And
Patricia,
yeah, go.
that I actually learned in the process with you, with Vesta, and that was in the investigation phase of a divorce, that there are some people that just don't know how to communicate well. They don't know how to dress. They're carrying a lot of anger, and it translates, non-verbally to that investigator, and it can really impact negatively on the case. So a lot of times Patricia will look at sending people to me. I call it image consulting, but that's also part of divorce coaching. So that may be one of the ways that we could look at it kind of out of the box.
I recently had someone that they wanted one of my agents to find them a rental, and she wanted to move out of county with her 4 kids. And I said, hold on, first of all, you need to talk to Cheryl, because this is sounding like maybe something you need to talk through with someone that's a professional and not your mom and girlfriend while you're out drinking at the Ritz-Carlton. And you definitely need to talk to Patricia, because I don't know if that's what that would be considered, because taking your children, moving, expecting your spouse to pay for that rent when there's a very large mortgage on the family home, and out of county, that's probably not the best idea. And then she was talking about, well, he can keep the house and I'll just take all his retirement. And I said, well, you should probably talk to Glenn first. Let's get you into the hub and get you the answers that you need before you start, doing crazy things.
Does anybody else, or do I have a minute here, Jackie?
Go for it, Glenn.
Yeah, so it just makes common sense that a team is stronger than an individual if you need all those skill sets. And, Patricia mentioned several, and I mentioned also, there's basically the 4 pillars of divorce. There's, the financial, the legal, the emotional, and also if you have real estate. With Patricia, and any of us, if we're sharing information, that means you're not paying for that for each person to bring in the information, organize the information, and review the information. Patricia and Elizabeth would know that, we have all the data from the financial side as well as putting together division scenarios that we'll construct with you. And you will be able to more clearly provide directives to your attorney. Your attorney will use our work. And generally, I have attorneys that say, Glenn, I'll refer you to other family attorneys as long as you'll tell me you won't be on the other side, because they'll be more prepared. Vice versa, if I have a question about the law, or if we've done a DISO master correctly, Greg and I, Patricia will be able to opine on that like that in an instant. Recently had a case where the husband said he had a realtor and the home had been valued, and his realtor told him to demand a certain number. And he gave us a comparison, a market comparison on his home, and there was really no opinion from his attorney. And I reached out to Susan Piazza and says, I have a property located at ABC 123 Honolulu Street. And she did a really in-depth comparative market analysis that much more refined the range of prices this home should be. And realtors will do that at no cost for you. And if you live in California, you should absolutely not be looking at Redfin or one of these other sites, to figure out the value of your home. Tommy and I worked on a case recently where we had a stay-at-home CEO of the home. And she had no idea that she might be able to qualify for a home on her own. So Tommy has tremendous knowledge of how to establish income using different financial instruments along with me. Also able to run different permutations. What if if you get divorced, usually one person is going to keep the home, or you're going to sell the home. If that one person keeps the home, you don't want the other person on the title. May need to be refinanced in order to cash the other person out of their equity. Tommy can help with all of that. And I can't stress the importance of getting help from a professional, a therapist like Cheryl, because, divorce is a business. The business doesn't care about emotion. And if you get yourself centered and calm and educated, you'll be able to negotiate your best position. You'll be coming from a place of being informed and being steady. And I think that's so important, because listen, you only get one chance really to get this right.
And to answer your other question, I think, what we have here in the hub, Vesta builds these hubs of professionals, and everybody on the call today, we're what we kind of consider the core professionals that you're going to need in order to support the 4 pillars that Glenn has mentioned. And so, Jackie, to your second question about, are there other people in our networks? There absolutely are. All sorts of different people, right? So we've got business valuators. Sometimes that comes into play. We've got people in our network that can deal with special needs situations. We've got career coaches, right? We've got people that can help you with your dating life moving forward, all of these different things, really to help you create the life that you hopefully have envisioned for yourself moving forward. And, I think that's really an important piece of it, is envisioning what your life is what you want your life to look like on the other side of the process. And so, and, we're happy to work with whoever you bring in as well. One of the benefits of working with people in the hub is that we know each other and we respond to each other, and that's, there's a lot of value there. But that doesn't mean that we won't also totally work with, the attorney that you already hired, or, the real estate agent that you already have, or your financial advisor. We're not closed off in that sense.
Wow. I'm going to explode here because I wrote down so many things that I have to say. So I'm going to be really quick about it. But you guys, you're amazing. So the first thing I thought of was I'm sort of starting to think that if you're getting divorced or thinking about it, I truly think this now, and I've been in this business now for 15 years. That's when I got divorced. Well, 8. I've had Divorce Girl Smiling. And I think one of your first calls when you're thinking about divorce should be to a mortgage broker. Like that to me, because then at least you're gathering information. If you care about keeping your house, maybe you rent, so it might not be an issue. But if you care about keeping your house, I would say one of the first calls you make should be to a mortgage banker, maybe even before a divorce attorney. I'm not sure, but the second thing I want to say is that when I got divorced 15 years ago, there was no such thing as divorce coaches. That wasn't even in existence. Boy, do I wish they would have had them, because that could have helped me. I'm one of those people who was calling my divorce attorney litigator, crying hysterically because my ex just got a new girlfriend 2 minutes after we got separated. And that's not right. That's why you need other forms of support emotionally from a therapist and or a divorce coach. The other thing I was going to say, I'm crossing these off the list, so I make sure to say them all, is that I love Vesta. I am a huge fan of Vesta. I think it's an amazing concept, because what Vesta is doing is they've brought together this wonderful team of people, and you all respect each other and you like each other and you trust each other. And that is so important for people like me, or I'm saying people going through a divorce. It's important to get recommendations from other professionals, because people getting divorced don't want to talk to their friends. They don't want to ask their friends because it's embarrassing and they might not know people. So the best way to find good professionals is through other professionals. And that's what Vesta has created here. And I just want to say on a personal note, before today, I only knew Patricia. Patricia's a Divorce Girl Smiling partner. I love her. I've gotten to know her really well. We've done podcasts together, but everybody else on this call, man, I am so impressed. And I have to say, I'm really glad I got to know everybody, because a lot of people ask me on my site for referrals, and in the California area, I would be happy to refer anybody that is on this call. So I want to thank everybody. We're going to put up a slide for all of the listeners to get a hold of you if they want to. Do we have that slide? Okay, so we've got Patricia, Elizabeth, Glenn, Greg, Cheryl, Susan, and Tommy.